Hydraulic fracturing, also known as fracking, is a non-conventional drilling technique to obtain oil and natural gas within the earth. Fracking starts with a well drilled vertically at an angle from the surface to a depth of 1 to 2 miles and often uses explosives, pressurized water, sand, and other chemicals such as aluminum oxide to allow gas to rise to the surface. In the United States, Pennsylvania, New York, Texas, and Virginia are most active in fracking. Despite its advantage of being able to attain more natural gas and oil, fracking has significant risks to the environment. First of all, fracking consumes large quantity of fresh water. The fracturing process uses on average about 2.5 to 8 million gallons of water for a single horizontal well, and much of it comes back up along with extracted gas. The EPA currently prohibits the discharge of produced water to surface waters and municipal wastewater treatment plants. As a result, most produced water is disposed of by injecting it into deep underground wells, but there are concerns about such practice inducing seismic activity and environmental risks. Therefore, this leads to the industry looking for ways to reuse the produced water from fracking. One way to manage produced water is simply reusing produced water for drilling and fracking. In Pennsylvania and West Virginia, roughly 30% of produced water is mixed with fresh water from the Monongalia River and reused for fracking. This practice is growing in West Texas and New Mexico as well. Another way of the reuse of produced water is adding untreated produced water to wastewater from the power plants. The water used during the cooling process contains high concentrations of scale-forming substances over time. Therefore, this needs to be removed for treatment. When produced water from the fracking industry is added to this blowdown water, calcium carbonate precipitates immediately, leaving behind water that is less costly to treat. Now I want to discuss ways to minimize fracking's harm to the aquatic environment. A major problem right now for the fracking process is EPA giving an exception to oil and gas industries to inject known hazardous materials unchecked directly into or adjacent to underground drinking water supplies, also known as the Halliburton loophole. This loophole leaves gas and oil industries to bypass the Safe Drinking Water Act. In addition to water stress caused by fracking due to withdrawals of water in large quantity, the produced water can pose serious risks to the surrounding environment and public health due to the toxic chemicals and high levels of total dissolved solids in it. Inadvertent spills or illegal discharge of produced water will affect elements of the ecosystems like exposed soil, aquatic organisms, and terrestrial animals. Demand for high volume, short duration water withdrawals for fracking could create water stress to aquatic organisms in streams. There's potential for these withdrawals to cause water stress. Water stress can be quantified as either the risk of water scarcity for people or as the extent and magnitude of altered natural stream flow that could result in loss of aquatic biodiversity and ecosystem function and services. A study recommended daily withdrawals should not reduce stream high flow by more than 10%. This withdrawal threshold was selected to prevent increasing sediment deposition that consolidates substrate and eliminates habitat for aquatic organisms. Similarly, the recommendations would prevent withdrawals reducing low flows by more than 10% when elevated water temperatures and critically low dissolved oxygen already exist as threats to aquatic organisms. Dozens of children and young adults have been diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma and other forms of cancer in a 4-county area outside of Pittsburgh. Ewing sarcoma has no known environmental cause, but the families there suspect that hydraulic fracturing played a role since they have drilled more than 3,500 wells since 2008. This isn't a coincidence. Please take a stand before it affects your family or kids as well. Bottom-up solutions can consist of working civilians going out to protest to give insight and heighten awareness for their right to have gas and oil industries to properly dispose of produced water. On the other hand, top-down solutions having regulatory requirement of using containment such as sheet piles. This will ensure that the water and chemicals being used in that site to obtain natural gas and oil won't spread elsewhere since the sheet piles act as a barrier underground. More importantly, getting the Fracking Responsibility and Awareness of Chemicals Act, also known as the FRAC Act, to be passed. This will then close the Halliburton loophole, and it would require oil and gas companies to disclose the chemicals they use during the fracking process. In all, the families will know what is being put into their ground and if they need to take any precautionary measures to maintain their well-being. Thank you for listening, and my sources will be at the end of this video.